So before Mass, I'm asking for an acolyte. In 4 years of celebrating Mass in our beautiful parish, I've never celebrated Mass alone. There's always a deacon or an acolyte. When the bishop was here for a confirmation or a big Adoration Chapel Mass, Deacon Irvin, who'll be a priest soon, was the MC, he told me to come up and play acolyte. There's a downgrade, but I'll take it. I'm here to serve. I said to Irvin, I whispered, Irvin, I don't know how. I was never trained. I don't know how to put those cups on the altar. So I was still, if there's an acolyte who came late to Mass, there's like 7 in our parish, come suit up and help me put those chalices on the altar, because I don't know what I'm doing at that point. Don't be surprised, there's many things I don't know what I'm doing about. Today's homily, the president's immigration policy. What do you think? Just kidding. Got a rise out of you, didn't I? Yeah, we'll talk about it at Starbucks afterwards. Now, what I say next, don't clap. Please don't clap. It takes away the moment, and I just want you to just hear it. Don't clap. The musicians, don't clap. They're awesome. They are. And they do this on their own. Don't clap because they lose it. They lose it. They did it for the Lord. You want to thank them individually? Thank them. You want to send them a card? Send them a card. The warm-up for Mass was awesome. The way they sing together is awesome. I just want to thank them. Now, don't boo. Don't boo. Yesterday was Father Simon's birthday. Don't boo. Okay, what else? That's an opening, a little humor. But again, thank you. And we don't want claps. But why do that? I mean, just go off on a tangent, because we like clapping. I know we do. But Father Jerome's from the old school. There's a few actual examples in Mass where you're supposed to clap. It's in the books. But it's generally I know it's appreciation. But why do we do it in the first place? Do I come up here for your affirmation? If I did, I would not speak the truth. I'd always be looking at my notes. Oh, I hope I don't say something the wrong way, because they're not going to clap for me. I can't do that. I don't want you to do that. Do it because the Lord sees you do it. Do it because it's a gift for God, and when you pray, you go to your room, you close your door, and you pray in secret, and your Father, who sees in secret, will reward you. And while you're clapping for people who have obvious gifts and talents, how about all the other people in the parish that we don't know about? Like the acolyte who's not here. I just made that up. But seriously, so that's my opening. Today is a very, very important feast. Next week starts Advent. The last Sunday in ordinary time is Christ the King. We're celebrating Christ the King. King of all creation, King of the world, King of all peoples, King of our souls, King of the poorest, and as we heard in today's Gospel, King of the brokenhearted. I'd like to add to Christ, blessed are you because you did this, blessed are you did this. I want to thank all the police officers and law enforcement officials for what they do for the least of our brethren. They don't get enough recognition. And I want to thank them publicly for what the services they do to keep us safe, to hopefully, through our justice system, provide certainly imperfect, but the best system I've seen in the world. And I want to include them as well. As you enter Mass, as you enter church this morning, you entered the court of the King. This is the King's court. We are his ministers. And I hope there's 3 things you did before you came to sit down. The first thing you did is you touched the holy water. And you were reminded of your own baptism as it's raining outside. Nice little sound effect. You touched the holy water, reminded that Christ on the cross paid for your membership in this court. We're all equals under God. Secondly, you made the most distinguished sign a Christian can make. I think these 2 are the big ones, but this is a big one. Big sign. You know, in the inner city of Chicago, an hour and 10 minutes from where you're sitting, horrible news. I don't know when it's going to happen. 24 hours, 48 hours at the most. Some kid's going to get shot over a gang sign. Very proud to communicate. I'm a member of this group. How proud are you in public to make this sign at the restaurant before you eat your breakfast? And no one's going to kill you for it. They might give you a funny look, and you look right back at them. It's still America, isn't it? We're not living in it's not Islamabad yet. And considering how much persecution that Christians have undergone, you should make this sign as a member of the King's army with pride and dignity, and hopefully somebody sees you. Don't do it to be seen, but hopefully someone does see you, because your signs of faith could be someone else's miracle. What is it? Among all the things that I think convert people to the Christian religion, personally, conviction in our teachings and joy and service. It's a great story. I was in Africa, talking to this guy I met in South Africa, a Swiss banker at his 35th anniversary. I saw him for like 2.5 days. We were like best friends. The table over next to us is listening to our conversation. Okay, I'm dressed in plain clothes in Cape Town, South Africa. And the guy gets up and walks away. The couple says to me, "I'm sorry, we were listening to your conversation. We're just curious. What do you do for a living?" I says, I don't want to answer that. Well, why not? Well, I'm in South Africa. There's a lot of things on. I said, honestly, what I said, I don't want to lie to you. But maybe you can guess it. He goes, "Law enforcement." Nope. He says, "Priest." I said, "I am a priest." How'd you guess that? Well, you were talking about these international things, this and that. So it turns out they're from Ireland, and they're not Catholic. Never heard of that before. First couple I've ever met from Ireland that was not Catholic. Anyway, so we started talking, and I said, "Oh, you got to become Catholic." And why? And I brought up the Eucharist. And the wife said, "Oh, her girlfriend Mary, who's a Catholic, is always so joyful, and she serves so much." She goes, "Maybe we'll go home," and she said, "Yeah, who knows what happened? Maybe we'll become Catholic." The point is, we got, as the gospel intends us to do, we have to reach out to the less fortunate. We have to make service an integral part of living out in God's kingdom. So we enter the court, we touch the holy water, we're bought at an incredible price, we sign ourselves with the great sign of Christianity, love and mercy and service and forgiveness. Then we genuflect if you're physically able. If you're not, you're not. But you genuflect. Why? Because the king is he's reigning in his throne. He's reigning in his throne. That's where our king lives. He lives in the Adoration Chapel. And we come to adore him. How blessed we are to be members of this court. This court has tremendous extension into the court of heaven. This is actually a real participation in the court of heaven. As we are doing now, so they are doing in heaven. Now, the plan for Christ to become the king on earth took a very long time. From Adam and Eve in the garden, it took thousands and thousands of years to get to Christ. It's a very long plan. The Jews waited over 400 years in slavery in Egypt. But finally when he comes, if you do the math statistically, from thousands and thousands and thousands of years of waiting to 30 years of basically humble, quiet service to 3 years, do the math on that, it would be 0.000 something. And then after the Last Supper, it happens in 17 hours. So long plan. So think about your own life. Something going on in your own life. You're waiting, and pow! It just happens. God is miraculous that way. Some things can take an extraordinarily long time to come about. And then when they come about, they can happen so fast. Let's talk about our King. Our King is not seated on a velvet cushioned throne. Our King mounted the cross. He's a suffering King. He's a King who poured out all his love for the sake of us, the lost sheep, to call us back home. He's a King who modeled humility and service to the umpteenth degree. And right after the Last Supper, there's one recording of Jesus singing. There's one recording of Jesus singing. I'm sure he sang a lot, but there's one recording right after the Last Supper. They sang on the way to the garden. You know the story. It happened quickly. He prayed in the garden. They came and grabbed him. They put him in a jail. And they brought him before Pilate. That's what I want to stress. It happened so fast. So Pilate says to him, so you are a king. Whoa, you are a king. He says, well, do you say this on your own, or how do you know this? And Pilate's answer was, I'm not a Jew. The people who brought you to me said you're a king. And Jesus' answer is, I am a king, but not of this world. I have another world of which I am a king. If I was a king of this world, I would send so many angels down to fix this problem. Now, total tangent, but I want to go here. If I ever made a movie on Jesus and gave that scene, Robert De Niro would play Jesus. And he would look at Pilate with a Grand and Ogden accent and say something like, "Are you kidding me? Do you know who I am? I got all kinds of guys out there. Come find you and we'll take care of all this stuff real quick." Just like this, okay? Oh, I'm sorry. That was a Tony Montana accent. I meant Grand and Ogden. I didn't mean a little Cuba in Miami. Anyway, the point being, he gave himself over, and Pilate finally says, Jesus says, "I came to bear witness to the truth." And Pilate asks the age-old question everybody must ask themselves. What is the truth? Jesus doesn't answer. Pilate, like many, many politicians and people in power, he did not care what the truth was. He cared to wash his hands of the future action that he knew would take place. You see, if you're not steeped in the truth, if you've got some means, if you've got, well, you got a will, you got your free will. You're going to do one of two things or somewhere in the middle. But radically, there are two sides. You're either going to seek the truth, find it and follow it, or you're not going to care about the truth. Whatever the truth is going to suit your position of power. That's the truth for me today. That's the truth for me today. It serves, as Marx said, the truth is what serves the revolution. Whatever serves the revolution is true. So the question of truth becomes of the utmost important. Father, what's the truth? The truth is God so loved the world that he gave us his only son. Not that we would crown laurels of garlands of kingship upon him or throw flowers at his feet. But he came to serve, not to be served, and to give his life for the ransom of the many. So while he's on the cross, which is, again, I'm so proud. I keep saying this, but I'm so proud. And maybe I'll tell you why. I have this 2-foot crucifix above my bed from Mexico. You already know the story, and it's very bloody. Like Mel Gibson, The Passion. I don't like aesthetic Jesus crosses. I like the real thing. The real thing is he suffered a brutal, torturous, murderous, terrible death. As a traitor. They treat him like a traitor. And I wake up and I thank God I'm alive. Father Simon's not making any noise. My senior's at the health club. And I touch the cross and say, God, thank you. And for all those who are suffering today, please bring them comfort. And you say, well, why are you so into the cross? Well, maybe because I did a funeral on Tuesday, a burial on Wednesday, a funeral on Thursday, and a funeral on Saturday. How's that? I'm very close to the cross. So you are too. The question is, how close to the cross are you? Right before he died, there were two men hanging on either side of the cross. Both had opposite responses to their suffering. One, we'll call him the secularist or the hedonist. Hey, if you're God, come down from here. Take me down from here. I'm going to go back to the community, back to the people, back to my simple life. I don't want all these truths and moral convictions. And another thing with atheism, they knock God off the throne, and who do they put in there? Themselves. Back to Marx. I just read this about Marx. It wasn't that he hated God so much. He hated men not being gods. How about that? So the one guy says, take me down, I want to come down. The other guy, who's suffering immensely, obviously facing a torturous, burdensome death, says, Lord, remember me when you go upstairs. So my question for you on this Feast of Christ the King, A, how are you doing with your crosses? And if you're struggling, you might need a Simon of Cyrene. If it's too heavy, please reach out to someone and hopefully you find compassion. If you are carrying it heroically and quietly, praise the good Lord because you know he's carrying it with you. But we have a choice. When Christ the King, who rules from the cross in our lives, invites us to participate in his kingship. Again, he doesn't ask us to participate. What does an earthly king do? What does an earthly ruler do? If I'm the president, or let's leave the president alone. Let's just leave him alone for a second. If I'm the governor, okay, I'm the governor, and I want you close to me, I'll give you a position. I'll make you head of streets and sand. If I'm a police chief and I want to look out for a guy in the ranks, I'll make him a commander. I'll throw him something. Give him a title. God doesn't work like that. God, when he wants to send you an invitation to participate in his kingship, he sends you, or what shows up, is a cross. I know it's tough. It's very tough. That's his modus operandi. That's how he operates. And how many of us, I can speak for myself, have through crosses and sufferings and misunderstandings and whatever else my foibles and problems and sins may be, learned a much greater lesson than I ever learned from a book or a professor. You see, friends, there's a real school of the cross that teaches us so much wisdom. And again, for all of us, I suspect all of us have had, in one way or another, have suffered. The question becomes, do you lift it up with Christ to become a benefit to the hungry, the imprisoned, the misunderstood, the battered, those who lack self-worth, or do you just push it away and invest your energies, times, and talent in your own establishment of your own kingdom? That is the question before us. From one tree, freedom was lost and death entered the world. From another tree, our Savior mounted it and brought down the fruit of life everlasting, the Holy Eucharist. I don't know how this fits in, but I want to end the homily. I was thinking about Middle Ages. Can you imagine, like when Mel Gibson, when that movie Braveheart? Can you imagine? And I'm saying this sober. I'm sober. Can you imagine the parties those guys used to have in the Middle Ages? Like when the king won a big battle, and he called in all those big warriors and took off they'd have those big turkey bones. You know, and he had like 64 ounces of heaven knows what was in those jugs, right? Those are some serious. I mean, I'm watching going, wow, I thought I had a party time. These guys know how to party, okay? God doesn't do that here. He doesn't do that here. There's no turkey legs. Well, unless the Knights of Columbus have some after breakfast, after Mass, I don't know. There's no turkey legs. There's no clamoring. There's no loud brouhaha. There's a silent, loving giving of himself over to us into our inner sanctuary so he can be the king of our lives and our hearts, our community and our world. God's kingdom is all about justice, love, mercy, and service. I conclude with, even though Pilate did not want to get to the answer of what truth is, when it was all said and done, and he breathed his last, to this day the world can look up and say, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews.